Hello and welcome live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice of the world. I'm Gautam Roy and right now we're taking you across live to Algeria, where India's President Draupadi Murmu has travelled, where she's addressing a business meeting. But first, let's get you all the headlines. India summons Canada's charge d'affaires after its High Commissioner and other diplomats in Ottawa are named as persons of interest in a probe. Announces withdrawal of all its top diplomats from Canada. China says it will never renounce the use of force to take control of Taiwan after ending its largest military drill. The US urges Beijing not to risk escalation. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to inaugurate the World Telecom Standardization Assembly 2024 in Delhi on Tuesday. The event brings together over 3,000 global telecom and digital tech leaders. And 2024's Economics Nobel goes to Daron Acemoglu from Turkey, plus Simon Johnson and James Robinson from the US for their research into differences in prosperity between nations. Well, first up, India-Canada ties have been strained for over a year and now they've plunged even lower over the same issue. The Indian government has hit out at Canada over its probe into the killing of Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar that suggested the Indian High Commissioner is now a person of interest in the matter. It has termed the Justin Trudeau-led Canadian government's move as a preposterous and deliberate bid to smear India over its vote bank politics and summoned its High Commission's charge d'affaires and also withdrawn all its top diplomats from Canada.
India and Canada have been at daggers drawn ever since Prime Minister Justin Trudeau made a statement in the Canadian Parliament in September last year, charging India of having a hand in the alleged killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. India had dismissed those charges with contempt and demanded proof from Canada. Now, not only has Canada repeated its unfounded allegations, but it has also sent a diplomatic communication to India suggesting that the Indian High Commissioner in Ottawa and other diplomats are persons of interest in a matter related to an investigation. In a sharply worded statement, India's External Affairs Ministry has said the Government of India strongly rejects these preposterous imputations and ascribes them to the political agenda of the Trudeau government, that it is centred around vote bank politics. The Indian Foreign Ministry further said that this communication has come despite the Canadian government not sharing a shred of evidence with the Indian government, even after repeated requests. It was also said that the latest step follows interactions where assertions were made sans facts. The move leaves no doubt that there is a deliberate strategy to smear India for political gains. Prime Minister Trudeau's hostility to India has long been in evidence. Trudeau's 2018 India visit was aimed at currying favour with the vote bank. Trudeau's 2018 India visit rebounded on him to his discomfiture. Trudeau's cabinet has included individuals who have openly associated with an extremist and separatist agenda regarding India. Trudeau's naked interference in India's internal politics in December 2020 showed how far he was willing to go. His government was dependent on a political party whose leader openly espouses a separatist ideology vis-à-vis India. Trudeau's government has been under criticism for turning a blind eye to foreign interference in Canadian politics. Trudeau's government has deliberately brought in India in a bid to mitigate the damage. The latest development of targeting Indian diplomats is the next step in damage control. It's no coincidence that the move has been made when Trudeau is to depose before a commission on foreign interference. The move also serves the anti-India separatist agenda which the Trudeau government has constantly pandered to for narrow political gains. The Trudeau government has consciously provided space to violent extremists and terrorists. Space has been given to harass, threaten and intimidate Indian diplomats and community leaders in Canada. Death threats have been issued to Indian diplomats and others. All such activities have been justified in the name of freedom of speech. Some anti-India individuals who entered Canada illegally have been fast-tracked for citizenship. Multiple extradition requests from the Government of India for terrorists and organized crime leaders living in Canada have been ignored. The MEA also said that India's Canadian High Commissioner Sanjay Kumar is the senior-most serving diplomat and the aspersions cast on him ludicrous and deserve to be treated with contempt. India also went to the extent of saying that it has taken cognizance of the activities of the Canadian High Commission in India that serves the political agenda of the Trudeau regime. Canada had to withdraw 41 diplomats from Delhi last October when India demanded parity over diplomatic representation. Now the MEA has added that India reserves the right to take more steps in response to the Canadian government's machinations. Canada has the second largest Sikh community in the world after India, making around 2% of that country's population. Sikh separatism, stamped out in India, has found shelter there and holds political sway in some pockets. National elections are due in Canada in October 2025, and an increasingly unpopular Trudeau government is doing all it can to play vote bank politics with an issue critical to India's national security. With Gautam Roy, Tanvi Taneja for DD India.
And more steps have been taken indeed by India, announcing withdrawal of its High Commissioner as well as other diplomats stationed in Ottawa. To talk about it, we're now joined by Yashwardhan Sinha, former senior diplomat. Good evening to you, Mr. Sinha. Quite a sour note has been struck unprecedentedly, it seems, between India and Canada. Strange. One sees this happen in the context of other countries, but never in the case of two democracies, which many would have thought would have friendly relations.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm astonished at the level that the Canadian government could go to spoil relations with a fellow democracy, a fellow member of the Commonwealth, and a responsible member of the Committee of Nations. I think it obviously has to do with the domestic agenda of their Prime Minister, who's under siege right now with elections due next year.
Now, should we be first of all concerned about our envoy, our other diplomats? The Indian government has said that they'll be withdrawn or they are being withdrawn, but they still remain persons of interest in Canada.
Absolutely. I mean, it's astounding that a High Commissioner and a very senior diplomat whom I know personally is absolutely outstanding officer should be a person of interest for the Canadian government and the Canadian investigation or legal authorities, whatever. I'm absolutely surprised.
Isn't it tantamount to saying that the Indian government itself and India itself is a person or entity of interest if you say that India's High Commissioner is a person of interest?
Well, that they were alluding to earlier even, talking about how they believe that an agent of the government of India, and I heard they charged their affair outside South Block an hour ago, I think, saying that they had provided incontrovertible evidence, and I know that they have provided no evidence really, and I think this is absolutely astonishing. It's against civilized behavior, and I think if the domestic agenda is allowed to determine ties with a friendly country, and deep-standing ties, mind you. India and Canada have had very good relations in the past. And if one gentleman and his supporters think that by targeting India, I think the days of the imperial and the white man's burden is over. I think they must understand that India is a strong nation, a responsible nation, and commands a great deal of respect in the Committee of Nations.
Could you throw some more light on how it has become, as you say, the political agenda of the Trudeau government to target India in this manner? What is the reason and how far does it go back? Because I believe it goes back even further than Justin Trudeau to even his father.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think his father, Pierre Trudeau, also played games as far as our bilateral relations are concerned. I recall when our first peaceful nuclear explosion. The PNE happened in 1974. But be that as it may, I think I again want to repeat that, extremists, the Khalistanis who have a particular agenda, if the government of the day in Canada is beholden to them to survive, then I can only say that, it's a very sad commentary on the political affairs of that country. It is amazing that the Sikhs in India are peace-loving, they're as patriotic as any other Indian, and they played a huge role for India's defense in history. I go back to the martyrdom of Guru Arjan Dev Ji and Guru Gobind Singh Ji, what he did. I'm surprised, and I myself, when I was in London as High Commissioner, I would emphasize how the Sikhs have been in the forefront of the defense of India, for the independence of India, and some misguided elements living abroad think that they can change that. And what is even worse is governments in these countries succumbing to their false narrative.
And isn't it unfortunate that it would seem to a lot of people that Canada is a place where a lot of our Sikhs, in fact the second highest number of Sikhs there are anywhere in the world in Canada, they will get painted in the same brush as well, although I'm sure these fringe elements, these separatists and the terrorists, they must be a very small fraction of almost 800,000 Sikhs who are there in Canada.
I'd like to believe that, and the problem is that they are a very vociferous lot, and they're a dangerous lot because they believe in violence to achieve their aims. They have been threatening Indian diplomats and Indian missions and consulates for quite some time now. And I think the vast majority of Indian origin people, including the Sikhs, are peace-loving and law-abiding. But the sad part is that the government of the day is now encouraging this sort of action. And that is why I think we were forced to withdraw our High Commissioner and other targeted diplomats, because for us, the safety and security of our diplomats is of paramount importance.
And what can we expect next? Because clearly this is escalating, and you have a situation in Canada as well where otherwise Justin Trudeau is under attack from the opposition. He's becoming increasingly unpopular. But what about this issue itself? Would he face tough questions from opposition and others on these kind of moves as well against India?
Well, I certainly hope so. But that is something for the Canadian people to decide. I know that he barely survived a vote of confidence recently, and his popularity ratings are low. But I don't want to comment on that because that is internal politics of Canada. But I think people must realize what he is doing in terms of damaging the very strong relations that existed between our two countries, and more importantly, between our two peoples. We have such a large diaspora in Canada, and we've had such good relations in the past. And all that is being jeopardized for domestic political compulsions.
Certainly, that is quite a disturbing kind of a development that is taking place between India and Canada relations. Thank you for joining us and talking about it, Ambassador Sinha, for the moment.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now, the Global Standards Symposium 2024 brings together global leaders and policymakers to address the governance of emerging technologies like artificial intelligence and 6G. Hosted by the International Telecommunications Union and the Government of India, it sets a stage for the World Telecommunications Standardization Assembly in New Delhi this October.
In an era of unparalleled technological evolution, the Global Standards Symposium 2024 emerges as a beacon of foresight. Hosted by the International Telecommunications Union in New Delhi, this pivotal event brings together global leaders, policymakers and innovators to forge a cohesive approach to the governance of emerging technologies. With the rapid rise of 6G and transformative innovations like artificial intelligence and metaverse, the urgency for international regulatory framework has never been greater. India's Minister of Communication, Jyotiraditya Scindia, quite aptly said that we are on the brink of a new technological era.
In India alone, for example, 5G is anticipated to inject an astounding $450 billion into the economy by 2040. And therefore, while we have rolled out 5G across all 36 states and union territories, covering 98% of our districts and 80% of our population in just 22 months, this is not only a feat of India alone, but it highlights the transformative power of standardized innovation.
The assembly is expected to bring together close to 2,000 delegates from 193 member countries, global standardization bodies and telecom industry leaders.
In the Global Digital Compact that was adopted by member states last month, we do see a consistent call for harnessing the power of standards. Now it's time to deliver on the promise of that compact. That's where GSS 24 is uniquely positioned to contribute.
The symposium isn't just about technology, it's about ensuring that progress is sustainable, inclusive and equitable. With a comprehensive policy framework, it aims to address not only the technical demands of 6G, but also the socio-economic implications. As a crucial platform for defining the standards that will guide our global digital transformation. The future is here and it's being shaped today. With camera person Gaurav Giri and Uttam, this is Tapush Bhattacharya for DD India from Delhi.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. India's External Affairs Minister launches E-Migrate Portal, a mobile app to ensure safe overseas travel. At least 4 soldiers killed in Hezbollah's drone attack on Israel's northern base. Sirens are sounded out over central Israel as projectiles are fired from Lebanon. And the NATO holds its annual nuclear exercise Steadfast Noon.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the World Telecommunications Standardization Assembly, that's the WTSA 2024 in New Delhi on Tuesday. This global event will bring together over 3,000 telecom and tech leaders, making India a key player in shaping the future of digital communications and technologies.
India is all set to host one of the most significant global events in telecommunication, the World Telecommunications Standardization Assembly 2024. This prestigious event will take place in New Delhi from October 15th to 24th, bringing together over 3,000 industry leaders, policymakers and tech experts from more than 190 countries. On October 15th, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the assembly alongside India Mobile Congress 2024 held at Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi.
Honorable Prime Minister has already set the vision for Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliance in technology. India has possibly amongst the handful of countries which has developed its own 4G stack. The Prime Minister also said that India has to be a leader in not only 4G but 5G, which we have already rolled out at the fastest pace in the world. And then all about going to the next level of innovation, which is 6G. And this WTSA will be setting all standards and setting the path forward for this revolutionary technology.
Organized by the International Telecommunication Union in collaboration with India's Department of Telecommunication, this event marks the first time the event will be hosted in India and the Asia-Pacific region.
So We have roughly about 157 countries who have come here. We have large delegations from countries. We have about more than, I think, about 40 ministers who are joining us here. More than about 3,000 people who have come here. This is also paired with the India Mobile Congress, which is the great India's technology show in Asia Pacific region, which brings together policymakers, academicians, R&D, MSMEs all together. So this is kind of a great sandwich event which we are doing for showcasing India's prowess.
It also gives Indian startups and research institutions the chance to gain crucial insight into developing intellectual property rights and standard essential patents. Over the course of the event, countries will come together to define the standards for next-gen technologies like 6G, artificial intelligence, IoT, big data and cybersecurity technologies that will drive our digital future. For India, this is a game-changing opportunity to influence the global telecom landscape. India takes center stage in shaping the future of global communication. With camera person Gaurav Giri and Uttam, this is Apush Bhattacharya for DD India from Delhi.
Now, a new beginning has been made for empowering India's migrant workers. The inauguration of eMigrate V2.0 web portal and app streamlines legal migration and makes it easy for those going abroad in search of overseas employment. DD India's Anil Thomas has the details.
eMigrate V2.0 web portal and app launch in the national capital is a symbol of a wonderful symbiotic coordination between multiple ministries. This portal and app is now a symbol of protecting our workers in the foreign land. eMigrate project is a transformational initiative aimed at making the e-migration process easy, organized and humane through this e-governance platform.
The launch of eMigrate portal V2.0 is a testament to our continuing efforts to create a safer, more transparent and inclusive mobility for Indian labour and marks a significant milestone in our efforts to safeguard the welfare and interests of our citizens. It also aligns with Goal 10 of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals, which promotes facilitation of orderly, safe, regular and responsible migration and mobility of people.
This new web portal helps bridge the connect between employers and employees. It's multilingual and has linkages with multiple platforms like DigiLocker and Umang. This also removes the dangers of fake recruitment agents, as only those registered with the portal are part of it.
इंडिया में ब्रेन पावर और मैन पावर की ना कभी कमी थी ना कभी कमी है। देश के युवाओं को देश में ही नहीं लेकिन अपनी क्षमता अपनी स्किल के आधार पर उसको वैश्विक अपॉर्चुनिटी मिले और उसमें सरकार गवर्नमेंट उसको सहयोग करे, ये बहुत आवश्यक होता है।
This simplifies the e-migration journey. Now the employment seeker can check his application status, search for recruitment agent and foreign employers online. This portal and app will help submit grievances and access relevant information, all at the click of a button. Anil Thomas, DD India, New Delhi.
Now to Israel, where 4 soldiers have been killed in a Hezbollah drone strike at one of its northern bases on Sunday. The Hezbollah says the attack was in response to Israeli strikes in Lebanon that killed 22 people. On the other hand, Iran claims to be fully prepared for a war situation. Meanwhile, the US has announced to deploy the advanced anti-missile system known as THAAD in Israel. Here's more in this report on the escalating tension in West Asia.
These are the visuals of attack by Hezbollah on army base in North Tel Aviv on Sunday. The deadly assault on Israeli base killed at least 4 Israeli soldiers and injured more than 60 others. Air raid sirens were sounded over northern Israel at night, just a day after the attack. Israel's head of army and the country's defense minister visited the site on Monday. Israeli military spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari said in a televised statement from the site that the incident is being investigated.
At around 7 o'clock in the evening, an unmanned aerial vehicle of Hezbollah infiltrated from Lebanon and struck this base. The results are difficult and there are casualties. All the troops in the base were asked to call home and inform their families that they are fine. We are managing the incident. We will study and investigate the incident and how a UAV infiltrates without alerts and strikes the base.
Hezbollah said the attack was in response to Israeli strikes in Lebanon Thursday that killed 22 people and injured 117. The claim of responsibility for the attack came shortly after the Hezbollah released an audio message from its slain leader, Hassan Nasrallah, calling on its members to defend their people, family, nation, values and dignity. Israel also launched a retaliatory airstrike in the central Gaza Strip. The Israeli military said it struck militants operating from command center inside the compound, accusing Hamas of using civilian facilities such as hospitals for military purposes. The Israeli army on Sunday took journalists to a Hezbollah tunnel shaft some 200 meters from a UN post in southern Lebanon and said the presence of the tunnels was evidence that Hezbollah had built military infrastructure around UN and civilian settlements to use them as their cover. The Israeli military also claimed to have recovered brand new ammunition, mostly made in Iran and Russia.
The weapons that we found are from mostly two countries, Iran and Russia, but they are also from North Korea. Today we show the box of the rockets with a Russian name coming from the arsenal of the Russian army.
Meanwhile, the United States has announced to deploy an advanced U.S. anti-missile system known as Terminal High Altitude Area Defense or THAAD missile battery along with his military personnel to Israel. It's a highly unusual deployment meant to bolster the Israel's air defenses following missile attacks by Iran. On the other hand, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said that Iran wants peace but is prepared for any kind of circumstances if conflict escalates.
We are prepared for any kind of circumstances. We are ready for war, but we are also ready for peace. This is the definitive stance of the Islamic Republic. We are entirely ready for a military conflict. We are not afraid of war, but we do not wish for war.
With the deployment of advanced U.S. anti-missile system and U.S. military crew in Israel, the probability of widening the conflict in West Asia has increased. Will this end anytime soon remains to be seen. Raghav Kumar Jha for TT India.
The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, has started its annual nuclear exercise Steadfast Noon, with more than 60 aircraft taking part in its training flights over Western Europe. The exercise Steadfast Noon will run for 2 weeks and it involves fighter jets capable of carrying US nuclear warheads but does not involve any live weapons. This year's exercise involves flights mainly over host countries Belgium and the Netherlands and in the airspace over Denmark, the United Kingdom and the North Sea. NATO said that it is taking steps to ensure the safety, security, effectiveness and credibility of the alliance's nuclear deterrent. In a statement published ahead of the exercise, NATO's new Secretary General Mark Rutte has said nuclear deterrence is the cornerstone of Allied security. Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world as well. In Sri Lanka, the government has decided to postpone the presentation of the 2025 budget proposals. Although the budget for 2025 was initially scheduled to be presented in November this year, the upcoming parliamentary general election has led to its postponement. Showery conditions in Sri Lanka are expected to persist due to an atmospheric disturbance near the island. Thunder showers are forecast in various regions, including the western and northern provinces. Sri Lanka's Disaster Management Centre reports that over 130,000 people from around 34,000 families have been affected. Sri Lanka has also shut schools in Western Province on Monday and Tuesday in view of the prevailing conditions. After recent floods damaged highways and roads in Nepal, the Road Department has continued repair efforts. Supporting Nepal's reconstruction, the Government of India has sent the first consignment of components for 10 prefabricated steel bridges to the government of Nepal. Fly Dubai, Jazeera and Thai Air Asia Airlines are preparing to operate international flights at Gautam Buddha International Airport in Lumni of Nepal. Civil Aviation Authority of Nepal has given approval to these airlines to run these international flights. And still to come on DD India News Hour, we'll be speaking with our expert guest on the latest and largest Chinese military exercise directed against Taiwan, which encircled the self-ruled island for 13 hours. India-US Strategic Partnership Forum has held its annual India Leadership Summit 2024 in New Delhi. It deepens economic and technological ties.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked, we just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. And before we go any further, another look at our top stories. India summons Canada's charge d'affaires after its High Commissioner and other diplomats in Ottawa are named as persons of interest in a probe. Announces withdrawal of its top diplomats from Canada. China says it will never renounce the use of force to take control of Taiwan after ending its largest military drill. US urges Beijing not to risk escalation. And 2024's Economics Nobel goes to Daron Acemoglu from Turkey, plus Simon Johnson and James Robinson from the US for their research into differences in prosperity between nations. China said on Monday that it would never renounce the use of force to take control of Taiwan after ending a day of its largest military drills encircling the self-ruled island. Beijing said the drills were a stern warning to separatist forces on the self-ruled island. The military exercises, named as Joint Sword 2024B, came just days after the Chinese Foreign Ministry condemned Taiwan independence rhetoric from Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te on its National Day.
Tensions escalated at Taiwan Straits on Monday after China launched new military drills off the coast of Taiwan in what it described as punishment for a speech given by its president, William Lai. The exercises, dubbed as Joint Sword 2024B, were, what it said, a stern warning to the separatist acts of Taiwan independence forces.
China has always been committed to maintaining peace and stability in the region, and this is evident to the countries in the area. Therefore, if you are concerned about peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait, the first thing you should do is oppose Taiwan independence.
According to Taiwanese Defense Ministry, the drills involved 17 Chinese warships and 125 Chinese military aircraft, the most it had detected operating around Taiwan in a given day. In response to China's drills, Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense released footage showing air defense launchers, military vehicles and naval vessel being maneuvered into position.
The Ministry of National Defense needs to make it clear that the PLA's irrational and provocative military exercises not only endanger security across the Taiwan Strait, but are also unfavorable to unhealthy development of across strait relations. They are seriously undermine the security in the Indo-Pacific region and threaten the rules-based international order.
Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense footage also showed Taiwanese frigates and unmanned aerial vehicles monitoring Chinese vessels and aircraft around the self-ruled island. The Eastern Theatre Command said the drills joined SWORD 2024B took place in the Taiwan Strait and areas to the north, south and east of Taiwan. Maps published by Chinese state media showed China deploying planes and ships to encircle Taiwan. The Chinese state media said later that the drills concluded successfully. China's new round of military movements near the island came days after Beijing condemned a speech by Taiwan's leader, Lai Ching-te, in which he stated that China had no right to represent Taiwan. Taiwan's security chief told reporters in Taipei on Monday that Taiwan will continue to maintain close communication with friendly allies. The development triggered reactions from other countries as well.
Of course, we are taking a close look, and it's always clear to us. We assume that nobody is trying to use force to change the situation between Taiwan and the People's Republic of China. But this does not stop us from taking a close look at things.
While in UK, Prime Minister Keir Starmer's spokesperson said that Britain has long backed the use of constructive dialogue rather than military activity to solve issues between China and Taiwan. Fuzail Ahmed reporting for DD India.
So how concerned should we all be by this latest move that's been made by China with the assertion that it will never close out the option of taking Taiwan by force? Ambassador S.R. Tayal joins us, former senior diplomat, to talk about it. Good evening to you. Ambassador Tayal, what do you make of what China has done and what is now saying that it will always keep the military option open to ensure that Taiwan becomes part of China? That's an assertion that it's made, and it also said that it's punished the president, the Taiwanese president, for his speech on its National Day.
China is very clear, and it has always made statements right from 1948, 49, and that Taiwan is part of China and there is only one China. And for having diplomatic relations with China, they always insist that there is one China. Now, Taiwan is 3 crore people are there, and they don't want to be part of China. So there was some kind of an unstable equilibrium which was holding, that China always claimed that there will be reunification or unification of Taiwan with China. And Taiwan made some kind of ambiguous statements. But since 2016, when the Democratic Progressive Party first President Tsai Ing-wen came to power, and then her deputy President William Lai is in power, they are making statements which say in essence that Taiwan is an independent country and there is no question of its unification or any kind of merger or whatever with China. So China has been challenging that verbally and also threatening Taiwan by this encirclement. The strategy of China seems to be to threaten Taiwan, and ultimately, if really things go wrong and they decide to take action, then they will have a naval blockade of Taiwan. As you are showing in your map on the screen, Taiwan is like an island, and they don't have much supplies of, say, fuel, and even water comes from outside, etc. So a naval blockade can really squeeze Taiwan. Now that naval blockade will have to be broken by United States. No other country can break that naval blockade and run some kind of convoy ships to Taiwan. Now there is no defense treaty between United States and Taiwan. United States is not obliged to come to the assistance of Taiwan. There is the different acts of US Congress say that US will assist in the defense of Taiwan. So this is all very gray area. President Biden had made some statements that US will come to assistance of Taiwan. So China is now testing the patience and trying to pressurize Taiwan. There was at one point, there was this suggestion from China that it could be a one country, two systems kind of a solution. That means Taiwan should accept that it is only one country and a province of China, but it will be allowed to have its own system of governance, of polity, of democracy, etc.
Yes, but that's not been allowed in the case of Hong Kong, so why would Taiwan expect that it will be granted that?
Exactly. So now Taiwanese have understood that there is no, that is not the way, and whatever promises China make, they are not worth the paper they are living on.
But Ambassador Tayal, what do you make about the magnitude of this particular exercise, this the joint sword, I think it's called 2024B, where Taiwan said it spotted 34 naval vessels and 125 aircraft which completely encircled the island for about 13 hours.
So this has happened earlier also, when after Nancy Pelosi went, and gradually the level of contacts of the US government and some other European powers with the Taiwan is increasing, like cabinet ministers going, etc. But this is all exercises which are exercises for a blockade of Taiwan, and how far it will go, when China may take that kind of step, that only China can tell. But it is certainly, they are threatening Taiwan that in case you continue to go on a course of independence, then China will take some steps. And they have stopped talking about peaceful unification. Earlier, Chinese statements used to say that yes, there will be one China and Taiwan will be unified, but they will be peaceful. They have dropped the word peaceful in their statements. And now, if a question is asked, they say that no, we are not committed.
Okay, I have another question for your consideration. You know, ever since the Americans withdrew from Afghanistan, it was said that now China will be questioning American resolve in the case of Taiwan as well. Now, the US, do you think it is amply demonstrated that it will back countries that are attacked by its enemies, be it in the case of Ukraine or be it in the case of Israel? The US says that it's backing both to the hilt, and so far it seems to be living up to its words. Will that be the case for Taiwan as well, which is very, very critical to the global supply chain of semiconductors?
There have been some write-ups in the Taiwanese analysts and strategic experts, and they have said 10 points that if China takes over Taiwan, then it will help China in 10 ways. And one of this is the semiconductors, that they will have this manufacturing capacity. So yes, you are right that China will be testing and assessing the resolve of United States to come to the assistance of Taiwan. So it is a long-term game. Chinese take very calculated moves they make. And once they make an assessment that United States will not intervene militarily if they have a naval blockade or pressurize Taiwan in different ways, only then they will take action. This is the present exercise, and after this is the second exercise this year. Last year also there was a very major exercise, similar exercise of encircling Taiwan. At that time, the movement of ships of other countries was also stopped, and they were warned not to come to that area. So this is all to threaten Taiwan, that in the people of Taiwan may get afraid, and then they bring the other party, the KMT, to power, which has a more conciliatory policy towards China. So this is also a part of psychological warfare against the people of Taiwan, and so it is a long-term declared policy of China that they will have Taiwan. The Taiwan will unify with China.
Well, let's hope that nothing precipitative happens, and peace is maintained at least in this corner of the world, because that is paramount at this stage, considering that other conflicts just seem to be never-ending and even escalating. Thank you for joining us for the moment, Ambassador Tayal.
Thank you.
Now, the US-India Strategic Partnership Forum India Leadership Summit 2024 brought together leaders from across sectors, fostering closer collaboration between business and government to strengthen public-private partnerships between the United States and India. And the oldest and largest democracies are strengthening their defense ties. At the India Leadership Summit in Delhi, DD India's Vishal Baristow caught up with Boeing India CEO.
We are talking about self-reliant India as far as the defense sector is concerned, and India and US are getting closer and closer. And I have with me Salil Gupte, who is the CEO of Boeing India. How do you find this opportunity with the oldest and the largest democracies getting together for a safer world?
It has strengthened tremendously over the last 20 years and has gone from zero to over 20 billion US dollars of defense industrial trade between the two countries. And it is very much a two-way street. You have Apache fuselages made here in India. You have 737 tail fins made here in India. And that's just Boeing. My colleagues at Lockheed Martin and General Atomics and Pratt & Whitney all have large industrial engagements here in India for the world. And I think that just shows the strength of this US-India industrial partnership.
Now, as the Indian CEO in Boeing, how do you find Prime Minister's vision of a self-reliant India?
I mean, it's certainly a goal that is part of his long-term vision, and it is one that I think is going to come to fruition in the very near term.
IP is a big challenge as far as getting closer. So what do you have said on that?
From a corporate standpoint, you can use subsidiary structures. Boeing has Boeing India Private Limited as an example of that. And we do a lot of our work here through BIPL. But you can also use joint venture structures to protect your intellectual property. Now, as it relates to tech transfer, that's a different story. As India and the US have grown closer together, more and more tech has transferred to India. It very much is a two-way street, and it's because of the trust between the two countries on issues like IP.
So there you heard Salil Gupta. It is a two-way street, and definitely it's the trust between the two democracies that India and US are getting closer as far as defense ties are concerned. With Saurabh in Delhi, this is Vishal Baristow for DD India.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. India's Sports Ministry puts National Sports Governance Bill in the public domain for the people's suggestions. And in cricket, a three-match one-day series between India and women's team in New Zealand will begin from the 24th of this month. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, as the US presidential election reaches its last lap, the Indian American community is playing an increasingly important role in these elections. Indian Americans, though still small in numbers, are now the largest and most politically active group among Asian Americans. DD India's Amritpal Singh travels to California's Central Valley to meet farmers of Indian origin who've been settled there for over a century. Take a look.
When Usha Vance stood beside her husband, J.D. Vance, Donald Trump's running mate, at the Republican National Convention in July this year, it marked the first time that an Indian American stood to become a vice presidential spouse. That cemented a remarkable reality that a woman of Indian descent will either serve as the next president of the United States of America or become its second lady. It was the latest milestone for the Indian American community that has emerged as a political powerhouse over the past decade. Today, the Indian Americans are increasingly being nominated to senior public service positions, occupying over 4.4% of the positions, while the Indian diaspora makes up a mere 1.5% of the US population. The Indian diaspora represents a dynamic network of 5.1 million people, including 2.8 million first-generation immigrants. Today we travel to a small town in central California called Yuba City to meet farmers who have been growing peaches and prunes here for over a century.
In this area, most farmers, they don't do that much row crop, but they do more like walnut, almond, peaches, prune. It's big agriculture.
The story of the Indians in Yuba City begins at the turn of the 20th century, when early immigrants from Punjab came here to work as farm laborers. The handful of immigrants over the century have grown into a thriving community of thousands of prosperous farmers, business owners, and professionals.
Started in the 1900s, right? People had came through illegally into Mexico, and they got married there with the Mexican ladies to become citizens. Then they went into Brawley. So we have even a Sikh temple over there in Mexico. And slowly they shifted towards the north here. Like we're sitting in Yuba City, California here. Fresno area, Stockton, San Jose, all these areas, Bakersfield, that's how they shifted all along. And they have made a big change since when they came from there. But now the farming has really changed since the 1900s to now.
Over the years, they have assimilated well in the American society.
We help each other. I have 2 Sikh neighbors by me. They've helped me harvest. I've helped them do things and given them spare things that I didn't need anymore that they can use. And so, I mean, we get along just like we do with any neighbor.
Though successive generations ventured out into other professions, becoming doctors, engineers, and businessmen, many amongst them are now returning to their family profession of farming. While the contribution of the Indian diaspora in the technology sector in the United States is pretty well known and well documented, it is the contribution of the Indian farmers in the American economy, also in the American society, by bringing in their values of diversity, inclusivity, and tolerance that makes this small community a pretty sought-after voter base for both political parties. With cameraman Sanjay Jaina, this is Amritpal Singh in Yuba City, Central California for DD India.
Now, US-based academics Darren Acemoglu, Simon Johnson and James Robinson have won the 2024 Nobel Economics Prize for their research on how institutions shape prosperity. The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences announced the prize on Monday, valued 11 million Swedish krona or 1.1 million USD. The award highlights the crucial role of societal institutions in reducing income disparities between countries. This award is the final Nobel Prize for the year.
The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences has decided to award Sveriges Riksbanks Prize in Economic Sciences in memory of Alfred Nobel for 2024 to Darren Acemoglu, MIT, Cambridge, USA, Simon Johnson, MIT, Cambridge, USA, and James Robinson, University of Chicago, USA, for studies of how institutions are formed and affect prosperity.
And now it's time to get you some sporting updates as well. Now, India's Sports Ministry has put out the National Sports Governance Bill in the public domain on Monday. It has invited suggestions from the people and other stakeholders as part of pre-legislative consultation process. The bill aims to provide for the development and promotion of sports, welfare measures for sports persons, ethical practices in sports as well. It also seeks to establish Sports Regulatory Board of India, which will act as a central regulatory authority responsible for granting recognition to national sports federations and ensure compliance with governance, financial and ethical standards. Its objective is to set up measures for the resolution of sports grievances and sports disputes. Stakeholders and general public have been requested to send their suggestions by the 25th of this month. The Board of Control for Cricket in India, or the BCCI, has announced the fixtures for the upcoming 3-match one-day series. This is between India women's team and New Zealand women's team. The first match will be played on the 24th of this month, while the second and third matches will be taking place on the 27th and the 29th of this month as well. All matches of this series will be held at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. They are part of the ICC Women's Championship. England captain Ben Stokes will return to the side for the second test against Pakistan after missing the last 4 matches due to a hamstring injury. Stokes picked up the injury in August while playing in the 100, while Ollie Pope leading the test team in his absence. Seamer Matthew Potts has also been named in the playing 11, with Gus Atkinson and Chris Wokes rested for the match in Multan, which begins on Tuesday. Meanwhile, Pakistan named 3 spinners in their team for the second test against England as they chase the series levelling winner. England lead the 3-match series 1-0. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen and download the app right away. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.